The clink of wine glasses faded as my mother-in-law, Evelyn, raised her voice at the Mother's Day party. Her eyes locked on me. "Edwin, you're a disappointment to this family," she said, her words slicing through the laughter like a blade. I stood frozen, my wife's hand slipping from mine, the room's warmth turning to ice. That moment, her public scorn, was the spark that lit a fire I didn't know I carried, a fire that would burn until I made her regret it. The backyard of my in-laws' suburban Connecticut home buzzed with a Mother's Day party, the May sun filtering through oak leaves, casting dappled light on the linen-draped tables. Edwin Harper, stood by the buffet, a plastic smile on my face, my tie too tight, my hands clutching a plate of quiche. At 42, I was a high school history teacher, my wiry frame unassuming, my hazel eyes sharp behind glasses, my dark hair thinning but neat. The party was a ritual, Evelyn's annual stage to shine as matriarch. But her words, sharp and deliberate, had just turned it into a battlefield, her public belittling a wound that bled deeper than I'd expected. Evelyn, my mother-in-law, was a retired real estate broker, her silver bob flawless, her blue eyes cold with judgment. She ruled her family, my wife, Laura, and her siblings, with an iron grip, her wealth and status a cudgel. Laura, 40, was my anchor, her warm smile and brown curls a contrast to her mother's chill, but even she couldn't shield me from Evelyn's disdain. We'd been married 10 years. Our life in a modest Hartford apartment built on love and shared dreams, but Evelyn saw me as lesser, a teacher, not a titan, my salary a fraction of her expectations. Her barbs were constant, but today they'd gone public and the sting was raw. The moment had come mid-toast, the crowd of relatives and friends sipping rose, their laughter light. Evelyn, in a cream blazer, stood on the patio, her glass raised to Laura's sister, a new mother. "To family," she said, her voice commanding, "and to those who lift us up." Then her eyes found me, a predator's focus. Unlike Edwin, who's content to scrape by, dragging Laura down with him. The words landed like a slap, the crowd hushing, eyes darting to me. Laura's hand, in mine, slipped away, her face flushing, her silence a betrayal. I forced a laugh, my throat tight, and muttered, "Happy Mother's Day, Evelyn," but my internal monologue roared. She wants to break me in front of everyone. Why does she hate me this much? The party resumed, chatter filling the void, but the wound festered. I moved to the garden's edge, the scent of lilac sharp, my plate untouched. I'm not enough for her, I thought, the scar of Evelyn's disdain a familiar ache. She'd mocked me since Laura and I got engaged. A teacher? Laura could do better. Her wealth a yardstick I'd never meet. I tried to win her over, helping with her charity galas, enduring her critiques, but nothing softened her. Laura, torn between us, would say, "She's just protective," but her silence today cut deeper, a crack in our unity. I caught Laura as I crossed the lawn, her smile strained as she chatted with cousins. I wanted her to defend me, to stand against Evelyn's venom, but hope dimmed. Her loyalty was split, her mother's shadow too long. Does she agree with her? My internal monologue whispered, doubt creeping in. I remembered our early days, Laura's laugh in our tiny apartment, her hand in mine as we planned a future. We'd wanted kids, a house, but Evelyn's pressure, "You need a real provider," had strained us, Laura's promotions at her marketing firm outpacing my steady but modest career. I was proud of her, but Evelyn's words made me question my place. My brother-in-law, Mark, a lawyer Evelyn adored, approached, his grin easy. "Rough one, huh, Ed?" he said, clapping my shoulder, his Rolex glinting. I nodded, my voice low. "She's got a knack for it." Mark chuckled, but his eyes held pity, a sting worse than scorn. "Just keep your head down. She'll move on." His advice was a shrug, no defense, and I felt alone, the party's warmth a facade. They all see me as she does, I thought, my dignity a fragile shield. I wanted to leave, to drag Laura with me, but stayed, my teacher's patience a mask, Evelyn's words a fire in my gut. Laura joined me, her hand brushing mine, her voice soft. I'm sorry, Edwin. She shouldn't have said that. Her apology was a spark of hope, but her eyes darted to Evelyn, laughing with guests, and I saw her hesitation. Why didn't you say something? I asked, my tone gentle, probing. She sighed, her curls falling loose. It's her day. I didn't want a scene. Her words were a disappointment, her loyalty divided, and I nodded, my heart sinking. I need you to choose me, Laura. The tension was a wire, the audience feeling my hurt and my tightened grip on the plate, the way I scanned the crowd. Evelyn's smug glance a taunt. I wandered to the dessert table, the chatter a dull roar, my mind churning. Evelyn's belittling wasn't new, but its public sting was a turning point, a challenge I couldn't ignore. She wants me small, but I'm not nothing, I thought, my resolve stirring, a seed of defiance. I remember my students, their eyes bright when I taught them about revolutions. My work a quiet legacy Evelyn couldn't touch. I'd endured her for Laura, but today's cut was too deep, her scorn a call to action I didn't yet understand. As the party wound down, Evelyn passed me, her smile sharp. Try to keep up. Edwin, she said, her voice low, a private jab. I met her gaze, my voice steady. I always do. The words were a vow, my anger a slow burn, the audience sensing the shift in my squared shoulders, the fire behind my glasses. I drove home with Laura, her silence heavy, the Hartford skyline looming. The Mother's Day party had exposed a truth. Evelyn's disdain was a war, and I need to fight, not for her approval, but for my own worth. Edwin, humble but waking, was ready to plan, my dignity a stone I'd sharpen, the sting of her words a spark that wouldn't fade. The drive back to our Hartford apartment was a tunnel of silence, the city's lights blurring through the windshield like smudged paint. Edwin Harper, gripped the steering wheel, my knuckles pale, my hazel eyes fixed on the road, the Mother's Day party a fresh wound. At 42, I was a high school history teacher, my life woven with Laura, my wife, but Evelyn's public belittling. Edwin, your disappointment, had cut deeper than her usual barbs, her words a spotlight on my insecurities. Laura sat beside me, her brown curls tucked behind her ear, her hands folded, her silence louder than the hum of the engine. As we pulled into our parking lot, the shame, confusion, and rising anger my internal monologue were a storm, the echoes of Evelyn's scorn-stirring memories, and a quiet resolve I hadn't known I carried. Our apartment was a small refuge, its beige walls lined with bookshelves and Laura's framed photos, the air soft with the scent of her lavender candles. I dropped my keys on the counter, the clink sharp, and sank onto the couch. My tie loosened, my glasses fogging as I rubbed my eyes. Laura moved to the kitchen, her footsteps soft, her avoidance a sting. She didn't defend me, I thought, shame curling in my gut, Evelyn's voice replaying, dragging Laura down. Was I? My salary, steady but modest, paled next to Laura's marketing director bonuses, her mother's wealth a constant yardstick. I'd always seen us as partners, but Evelyn's words, and Laura's silence, made me question my place, a crack in the life we'd built. My internal monologue was a churn, the audience feeling my turmoil in the way I stared at the coffee table, its wood scratched from years of use. Why does Evelyn hate me? I wondered, confusion gnawing. Her disdain wasn't new. Her first jab came at our engagement party, a smile as she said, Laura's settling, isn't she? But its public escalation felt deliberate, a campaign to shrink me. I'd ignored warning signs. Her suggestions, I switched to a corporate job. Her praise for her lawyer, son-in-law, Mark, always paired with a glance at me. Laura's reactions, too, held clues. Her hesitations when I'd vent about Evelyn, her quick changes of subject, her growing late nights at work. Is she ashamed of me? The thought was a blade, shame mixing with anger. Evelyn's scorn a mirror to doubts I'd buried. I flashed back to our early years, the audience sensing my emotional highs and lows. Laura and I in our first apartment, laughing over takeout, her hand in mine as we dreamed of a house, kids. Hope had been our fuel, her marketing career climbing, my teaching a calling I loved. But Evelyn's shadow grew. Dinners where she'd quiz me on my prospects. Laura's silence as I deflected. A low point. Our 5th anniversary. Evelyn gifting Laura a spa weekend to escape the grind. Her eyes on me. Laura accepting with a smile. I'd felt small, but Laura's kiss later had soothed me. Her love a balm. Now, her silence at the party was a disappointment. Her loyalty fraying, and I wondered if Evelyn's venom had poisoned her too. Laura emerged from the kitchen, a glass of water in hand, her eyes avoiding mine. "You okay, Edwin?" she asked, her voice soft, tentative. I looked up, my anger rising, but my teacher's patience held. "Not really," I said, my tone even probing. "Your mom humiliated me in front of everyone, and you didn't say a word." Her face flushed, her hand tightening on the glass. I froze, okay? It was her party. I didn't want to fight. Her excuse was thin, her eyes darting to the floor, and I felt the distance, a chasm widening. "It's not just today, Laura," I said, my voice low, raw. "She's been tearing me down for years, and you let her. Do you agree with her?" The question hung, my heart pounding, the audience sensing my vulnerability. Laura sat, her curls falling loose, her voice trembling. "No, Edwin, I don't. I love you. She's difficult, you know that." Her words were a spark of hope, but her hesitation, her lack of fire, dimmed it. "Then why not stand up for me?" I asked, my eyes searching hers. She sighed, her shoulders slumping. "I don't know how to fight her without losing her." Her admission was a gut punch, her divided loyalty a betrayal, and I nodded, my jaw tight. "You're choosing her over us," I thought, anger simmering, a resolve stirring. I couldn't live like this, shrinking to fit Evelyn's mold. The evening stretched, Laura retreating to the bedroom, her silence a weight. I stayed on the couch, the apartment's quiet a canvas for my thoughts. I opened my laptop, a reflex, and scrolled Laura's social media, a habit born of doubt. Her posts were polished, work events, dinners with colleagues. But I noticed a pattern. No photos of me, no mention of our life, a stark contrast to her early posts of us hiking, laughing. A warning sign I'd missed, a hint she was pulling away, Evelyn's influence a tide. My anger hardened, not just at her, but at myself for enduring Evelyn's scorn, for hoping Laura would fight. "I'm worth more than this," my internal monologue vowed, a seed of change taking root. I confided in my friend Sam, a fellow teacher, texting him as the clock ticked past 10. "Evelyn tore into me at the party. Laura didn't back me up. I'm done taking it." His reply was quick. "You're a good guy, Ed. Don't let her define you. What's your move?" The question was a spark, the audience sensing my resolve in the way I closed the laptop, my hands steady. I didn't know yet, but Evelyn's public cut had woken something. A need to reclaim my dignity, to make her see me, not as a failure, but as a man who wouldn't bend. I stood, the city's lights flickering outside, the apartment's silence a challenge. The tension was a slow burn, the audience feeling my rising anger in the clench of my fist, the way I stared at Laura's closed door, Evelyn's voice a taunt in my mind. I'd endured her for too long, my love for Laura a chain, but her silence had loosened it. I'd watch, plan, find a way to turn Evelyn's scorn back on her, not with rage, but precision. I, Edwin, was waking, my shame and confusion forging a quiet resolve, the sting of her words of fire that would guide me, its heat a promise of change. The Hartford apartment was a quiet cage, its beige walls closing in as the June sun slanted through the blinds, casting stripes on the hardwood floor. I, Edwin Harper, stood at the kitchen counter, my glasses fogging as I chopped onions, my hazel eyes sharp with a new resolve. At 42, I was a high school history teacher, my life frayed by my mother-in-law Evelyn's public belittling at the Mother's Day party. Edwin, you're a disappointment, and Laura's silence, a betrayal that cut deeper than the words. Weeks had passed, the sting of that day fueling a quiet rebellion, a reclaiming of my dignity through boundaries and confrontations, my heart a battlefield of hope and disappointment, bolstered by a friend who saw the man I was fighting to be. The shame of Evelyn's scorn had hardened into anger, my internal monologue a steady drum. I'm not her pawn. I'm enough. I'd begun setting boundaries, small but firm, to protect my worth. No more attending Evelyn's events, her charity galas, her brunches where she'd jab at my career, my salary, my existence. I told Laura last week, my voice calm but unyielding, as we sat at the dining table. I'm done with your mother's parties, I said, my hands folded, the scent of her lavender candle heavy. She disrespects me, and I won't stand for it anymore. Laura's brown curls fell loose, her eyes wide, a flicker of guilt. Edwin, she's family, she said, her voice soft, pleading. Can't you try for me? Her words were a spark of hope. She cared, wanted me there, but her failure to challenge Evelyn was a disappointment, a crack in our bond. It's not about trying, Laura, I replied, my tone steady, my anger leashed. It's about respect. She humiliated me, and you stood by. I need you to back me, not her. Her silence was a weight, her hands twisting, her loyalty torn. I'll talk to her, she murmured, but her eyes darted away, and I knew she wouldn't, her mother's grip too strong. She's choosing Evelyn, I thought, my heart sinking, but my resolve grew. I'd protect myself, with or without her. The confrontations with Laura were a tightrope, the audience feeling my tension in the clench of my jaw, the way I paused before speaking, my teacher's patience fraying. One evening, as she scrolled her phone, I noticed another post. Her at-a-work gala, no mention of me, a pattern I'd ignored too long. Laura, why don't you post about us anymore? I asked, my voice low, probing, the apartment's on a backdrop. She froze, her phone tilting away, her voice defensive. It's just work stuff, Edwin. It's not personal. Her dodge was a sting, her secrecy a warning sign I'd missed, and I pressed, my anger rising. It feels personal when you erase me. Are you ashamed of me, like your mother is? The question was a blade, her flinch a confirmation, and she stood, her eyes wet. That's not fair, she said, but her retreat to the bedroom was an answer, my hope for her support crumbling. My key support came from Sam, a fellow history teacher, my friend since college, whose blunt warmth was a lifeline. I met him at a diner, the neon sign buzzing, the air thick with coffee and grease. Sam, 43, his beard flecked with gray, his eyes kind but sharp, leaned back in the booth, listening as I poured out the party, Laura's silence, Evelyn's venom. She called me a disappointment, Sam, I said, my voice low, my hands gripping the mug. In front of everyone. Laura didn't say a word. Sam's brow furrowed, his voice firm. That's not right, Ed. You're a damn good teacher, a good husband. Evelyn's got no right to tear you down, and Laura needs to step up. His words were a spark, cutting through my shame, his belief in me a mirror to my worth. Sam's clarity was a beacon, the audience sensing its impact in my straightened posture, the way I met his gaze. What do? I asked, my voice raw, hope flickering. He'd know a path. Set boundaries, like you're doing, he said, his tone steady. But don't just take it. Find a way to show Evelyn you're not her punching bag. And talk to Laura, really talk. If she won't fight for you, that's a problem. His advice was a map, my resolve hardening. I confront Laura again, demand her loyalty, and plan something for Evelyn, a way to turn her scorn back, not with rage, but precision. Sam clapped my shoulder, his grin warm. You've got this, Ed. You're tougher than you think. His faith was a stone, grounding me, my dignity a flame he'd stoked. Back home, the emotional tension peaked, hope clashing with disappointment. I tried again with Laura, the apartment dim, her laptop glowing as she worked. "Laura, we need to talk," I said, sitting across from her, my voice calm, my heart racing. "Your mother's disrespect is breaking us, and your silence makes it worse. I need you to choose me, to stand with me." Her eyes welled, her voice trembling. "I love you, Edwin, but she's my mom. I'm trying." Her words were a flicker of hope, her love real, but her hesitation, trying, was a letdown, her conflict a wall. "Trying isn't enough," I said, my tone firm, my anger controlled. "I'm setting boundaries. No more of her events, no more taking her jabs. If you can't support that, we've got a bigger problem." Her silence was a chasm, her nod weak, and I stood, my resolve a quiet vow. I'd fight for us, but not at the cost of my worth. The audience could feel the suspense, my growth in the steady clink of dishes as I washed them, the way I journaled late, writing, "I'm not Evelyn's failure. I'll make her see me." The tension was a slow burn, hope for Laura's support dimming, my anger at Evelyn sharpening. Sam's clarity, my boundaries, were steps toward reclaiming my dignity, a plan forming, something to expose Evelyn's cruelty, to reclaim my place. I stared at the city's lights, the apartment's quiet a challenge, my internal monologue a promise. I'll stand tall for me, for us. I, Edwin, was forging a path, my shame a spark, my resolve a blade I'd wield with care, the sting of Evelyn's words a fire that wouldn't fade. The Hartford summer was a haze of heat, the apartment's air conditioner rattling as I packed a suitcase, my hand steady, but my heart a storm. I, Edwin Harper, stood in our bedroom, my glasses fogging, my hazel eyes reflecting a resolve forged from months of pain. At 42, I was a high school history teacher, my dignity battered by my mother-in-law Evelyn's public scorn at the Mother's Day party. "Edwin, you're a disappointment," and Laura's failure to defend me, a betrayal that fractured our 10-year marriage. Her silence, Evelyn's venom, had pushed me to a bold decision. Separation, a full withdrawal from their toxic orbit. The emotional fallout, raw with vulnerability and resolve, fueled my internal growth and a plan for revenge, a reckoning to make Evelyn face her cruelty. The decision crystallized after weeks of setting boundaries, skipping Evelyn's events, confronting Laura, met with Laura's weak promises and Evelyn's unrelenting jabs. A dinner at her estate last week, a rare concession for Laura's sake, had been the final straw. Evelyn, her silver bob gleaming, had smirked over wine, saying, "Edwin, still teaching those kids to aim low." The table laughed, Laura's hand still under mine, her eyes downcast. I'd left early, my internal monologue a roar. I'm done shrinking for her. I won't live like this. Separation wasn't just escape. It was survival, a reclaiming of my worth, my plan to expose Evelyn's cruelty, a fire I'd stoke carefully. I told Laura that evening, the apartment dim, the lavender candles scent cloying. She sat on the couch, her brown curls loose, her marketing file spread out, her face pale as I spoke. "Laura, I'm leaving," I said, my voice calm, my suitcase by the door. "I can't stay in this marriage while your mother tears me down, and you let her. I need space, separation, to figure out who I am without this." Her eyes widened, tears spilling, her voice a gasp. "Edwin, no, please. I love you. We can fix this." Her plea was a spark of hope, her love a pull, but her inaction was a heavier weight, my disappointment a stone. "I've begged you to stand with me," I said, my tone raw, vulnerable. "You choose her every time. I'm choosing myself now." Laura stood, her hands trembling, reaching for me. "I'll talk to her, I swear." "Don't go." Her desperation was real, but her promise was a broken record, and I stepped back, my resolve firm. "Talk isn't enough, Laura. You let her humiliate me in front of your family. I need time, maybe forever, unless you fight for us." My words were a blade, her sobs a sound I'd carry, but my dignity was a shield, my vulnerability a strength. She sank back, her face buried in her hands, her silence a confirmation. She couldn't break free of Evelyn's grip. I grabbed my suitcase. The doors click a final note, my heart heavy but unbowed. Evelyn's reaction came the next day, a phone call I'd expected. I was at Sam's apartment, my friend's guest room, a temporary haven, his coffee strong as I answered. "Edwin, how dare you abandon Laura?" Evelyn's voice was ice, her blue eyes vivid in my mind. "You're proving you're the failure I always knew." Her scorn was a familiar lash, but I was done bending, my voice steady, sharp. "Evelyn, you've spent years trying to break me. I'm not your punching bag. Laura's your daughter. Talk to her about why I left." I hung up, my hands shaking, the audience feeling my resolve in the clench of my jaw, my vulnerability in the sting of her words. She'll never see me, I thought, but my plan was forming, a way to make her feel the weight of her cruelty. My internal growth was a quiet forge, the audience sensing it in my steady breaths, the way I journaled nightly, writing, "I'm not her failure. I'm a man, a teacher, a fighter." The separation was a crucible, burning away my shame, revealing a strength I'd buried. I'd loved Laura fiercely, our early years, her laugh, our dreams, a warmth I mourned, but her silence had eroded us. Evelyn's venom a poison she hadn't fought. Vulnerability lingered. What if I lose her forever? But resolve was stronger, my worth a stone I'd no longer let Evelyn chip away. Sam, my anchor, saw it, his gray-flecked beard framing a grin as we talked. "You're standing tall, Ed," he said, his eyes kind. "What's next?" I leaned forward, my voice low. "Evelyn needs to face what she's done. I'm working on it." My plan for revenge was precise, not petty, a teacher's strategy rooted in truth. Evelyn's charity foundation, her pride, was her stage, its gala next month a spotlight. I'd uncovered her hypocrisy, her community grants funneled to friends, not the needy, a secret buried in public records I'd researched at school. I'd draft an anonymous letter, detailed but factual, to the gala's donors, exposing her misuse without implicating myself. It wasn't destruction. It was accountability, a mirror to her cruelty, my way to make her feel the sting of judgment she'd wielded. She'll see me then, I thought, my resolve a blade, my vulnerability a fuel. I wanted her humbled, but I feared the cost to Laura. The emotional fallout was a tide, the audience feeling my pain in the quiet moments, staring at Laura's texts, "Please come back," unanswered, unpacking at Sam's, my books a reminder of our life. I called Laura once, her voice shaky. I told Mom to stop. "Edwin," she said, a flicker of hope, but her tone lacked fire, her effort too late. "I need more than promises," I said, my voice soft, my heart aching. "I'm here if you choose us, but I'm not waiting forever." The call ended, my hope dimming, my resolve a lifeline. Evelyn's call had shown her unchanged, her scorn a goad, but Sam's support, my plan, were anchors, my growth a quiet triumph. I stood by Sam's window, Hartford skyline a blur, my journal open. "I'm enough," I wrote, the words a vow, my separation a stand for dignity, my plan a reckoning. The audience could feel my resolve, the fire in my eyes, the vulnerability in my trembling hand. Evelyn's belittling had broken something, but had forged me too, a man ready to fight, not for her approval, but for his own truth. Edwin, was scarred but standing, my revenge a careful spark, my heart open to healing, the sting of her words a fire I turned back on her. The Hartford autumn was a blaze of crimson maples, their leaves drifting past the windows of Sam's apartment, where I, Edwin Harper, stood adjusting my tie in a borrowed mirror. At 42, I was a high school history teacher, my wiry frame steady, my hazel eyes sharp with a resolve forged from months of pain. My mother-in-law, Evelyn's public scorn at the Mother's Day party. Edwin, you're a disappointment. And my wife Laura's silence had driven me to separate, a bold withdrawal from their toxic orbit. Tonight at Evelyn's charity gala, I deliver a reckoning, a moment of poetic justice to expose her hypocrisy, my dignity a beacon, my heart a forge of vulnerability and strength. The final confrontation and its aftermath would close a chapter, my reflection a vow to the man I'd become. The gala was Evelyn's crown, a glittering event at a downtown hotel, its ballroom aglow with chandeliers and the clink of champagne flutes. I'd moved to a small rental, my separation from Laura a scar that ached, her texts. I'm trying, Edwin. Unanswered, her loyalty still split. Evelyn's venom hadn't ceased. A voicemail last week called me selfish for leaving, her disdain echoed. But I'd planned carefully, my revenge not rage, but truth. I'd uncovered her foundation's fraud, grants funneled to allies, not the community, through public records, verified by a colleague in City Hall. My anonymous letter, mailed to key donors days ago, detailed the misuse with receipts, a precise strike to shatter Evelyn's facade without breaking the law. Tonight, I'd attend, uninvited, to witness the fallout, my presence a silent claim to my worth. I entered the ballroom, my suit pressed, my glasses polished, the audience feeling my control in my steady stride, the fire behind my calm. Evelyn stood at the podium, her silver bob gleaming, her cream gown a mask of elegance, her speech lauding community impact. Laura was there, her brown curls pinned, her eyes catching mine, a mix of shock and longing. I nodded, my heart twisting, but stayed focused, my plan in motion. Donors murmured, their programs swapped for my letter, its copies discreetly placed by Sam, my ally, who'd slipped in as a caterer. Whispers grew, heads turning to Evelyn, her smile faltering as a board member approached, letter in hand, his face stern. The confrontation was quiet but electric, the audience sensing my dignity in my poised stance, the way I watched from the sidelines. Evelyn's voice trembled mid-speech, her eyes scanning the room, landing on me. "What's this?" she hissed to the board member, snatching the letter, her poise cracking as she read. The room stilled, donors' eyes on her. The truth laid bare. Her charity was a sham, her grants a favor to friends. A woman in pearls stood, her voice sharp. "Evelyn, is this true?" Murmurs swelled, Evelyn's face paling, her empire of approval crumbling. I stepped forward, my voice low, clear for her ears. "You called me a disappointment, Evelyn. Now they see who's failed." Her blue eyes widened, fear replacing scorn, my control a mirror to her unraveling. Laura approached, her hand on my arm, her voice a whisper. "Edwin, did you do this?" Her eyes held pain, but also awe, a spark of the woman I'd loved. I nodded, my tone soft, vulnerable. "I had to, Laura. She hurt us both. I'm done being small." Her tears fell, her voice breaking. "I should have fought for you. I'm sorry." Her apology was a flicker of hope, but my resolve held, my separation a boundary I'd keep. "I love you," I said, my heart raw, "but I need you to choose us fully. I'll wait, but not forever." She nodded, her hand lingering, the audience feeling my strength in my steady gaze, my vulnerability in the tremor of my voice. Evelyn's reaction was a storm, her podium abandoned, her voice sharp as she cornered me near the bar. "You did this, Edwin," she spat, her elegance gone, her donors watching. "You're nothing, ruining me out of spite." I stood tall, my voice calm, commanding. "I showed them the truth, Evelyn. You built your throne on lies, not me. Live with it." The words were a blade, poetic justice delivered with precision, her humiliation a mirror to the sting she'd inflicted. She recoiled, her face a mask of shock, the room's judgment her new cage. I turned, leaving her to the whispers, my dignity a crown, my plan a triumph of truth over scorn. The emotional fallout was a tide, the audience sensing my catharsis as I drove to my rental, the city's lights a blur. Laura's apology had stirred hope, but her hesitation lingered, my separation a stand for self-worth. Evelyn's downfall was satisfying, her foundation under audit, her reputation tarnished, but didn't erase the scar. Her scorn, Laura's silence. My growth was in the balance, vulnerability meeting resolve. Sam met me for coffee, his grin wide. "You did it, Ed." Held up a mirror and didn't flinch. I nodded, my voice steady. "I needed her to see me, Sam. Not as a failure, but as a man." His clap on my shoulder was a stone, grounding me, my plan a lesson. I could fight not with hate, but with truth. I returned to teaching, my students' eyes bright, my lessons on revolutions carrying new weight. Laura and I talked, her efforts to confront Evelyn to start, but I held my boundary, living alone, healing. The audience could feel my resolve in my nightly journals, writing, "I'm enough, not for her, but for me." My revenge had been a mirror, not a torch, my dignity inspiring self-worth, a quiet victory over Evelyn's venom. Closing reflection. I stood on my rental's balcony, the Hartford skyline a tapestry of light, a single sketch in my hand, a bridge, its arches strong, a symbol of my journey. Evelyn's words had cut me, Laura's silence had broken me, but I'd risen, not with spite, but with truth, my plan to stand for the man I was. Teacher, husband, fighter. The scar remained, a map of pain, but also proof I could rebuild, my worth a fire no one could dim. I'd faced their storm and found my own strength, a lesson for anyone watching. You are enough, and when the world tries to shrink you, hold up a mirror, stand tall, and let your truth shine. I, Edwin, was whole, my heart open to love, to life, my reflection a vow that would echo long after the sting of words had faded.